Okay, so to wrap up this section on custom payloads, I would like to point out just a few more things. The first thing that I would like to point out is that you can see that in the case of the Dialogflow Messenger integration, you have to put the rich content field as sort of the parent object of everything, the whole content which goes inside of that field, right? So that indicates that this object is meant for the Dialogflow Messenger integration. And the Zoho Sales IQ is not a built-in integration. So what you do in that case is that you have to actually have a field which specifies the platform. Okay, there's a field with the name of platform and the value will be whichever channel is supported. Now, if you go to the Facebook integration, you can see that the custom payload has the field called Facebook as the parent object, and all this information is sent across. And then for the case of Slack, you can see that the parent is called Slack. So when you are deciding how to add these custom payloads, the first thing you have to see is there already a built-in integration in Dialogflow? Does it show up in this list? And if it does, then you have to put the custom payload through this, like clicking on this add responses and clicking on the custom payload. On the other hand, if there is no built-in integration, or if you are looking for the Dialogflow integration, I mean the Dialogflow Messenger integration, you have to go to this section under the default responses, and then you have to add the responses over here. That is the custom payload. And finally, the other thing you have to realize is that for the built-in integrations, the field structure, the structure of the JSON is a little different, because here you can see that the type of integration is used as the parent field name, and the entire object is used to render the control, while in the case of unsupported, or rather not the platforms which don't have one-click integrations, you have to explicitly specify the platform name here with the field called platform, and then this object as a whole will be sent to that particular platform. Now I keep saying that this field is sent to that platform, and this other field, this Facebook payload, is sent to Facebook, and this payload is sent to Slack. I don't want you to understand it as if Dialogflow is doing something where it sends these messages individually to different platforms. And that's not what is happening. What is happening is, under the hood, the integration code is just going to send all these responses as a single big blob, like a big object blob, which is in JSON format. And then those platforms are going to search through the JSON object which comes back and check to see if there is a custom payload which has a field called Facebook. So the Facebook integration and the Facebook service on their end will check to see if this is available, and if it is, then they will render the information into their widget, into their chat service. And then Slack similarly will check to see if the payload has this Slack field, and if it does, it's going to dump all this information into the Slack chat user interface. So that is what, when I say that this is sent to Slack and this is sent to Facebook, it's not as if they are all sent as individual messages to different channels. It's just that the whole object blob is sent in one shot, and those channels are responsible for extracting the information which is relevant to their channel. And by the way, again, even here, it's not as if Facebook has to write some extra code just to handle this custom payload coming from the Dialogflow integration. That's not how these things work. What actually happens is, Facebook provides an API and a data exchange format where they say, hey, if anybody wants to send a rich response to Facebook, which will render, let's say, some kind of a calendar control in the Facebook Messenger. Now, I don't even know if it's supported in the Facebook Messenger, but let's suppose that it is. Then they'll say, make sure that you send a field like this with all this information, and then we will take care of the rest. Okay, so that means everybody who wants to integrate with Facebook Messenger platform, and it doesn't have to be just Dialogflow, right? Even Dialogflow has competitors. It's got Amazon Lex, and then Microsoft Bot Framework. There is Rasa NLU. All these are bot frameworks which could all do the same job that Dialogflow does. Although I personally think that Dialogflow does a better job than all the others. But the point is that all those other services like Amazon Lex will actually follow a similar payload format, and they will just make sure that the format they send across to Facebook follows this data exchange format that Facebook decided on and provided to these other companies. And as long as the format is defined in the way that Facebook expects it, it will just work. That is, you will just see that the message shows up as an actual rich control, rich response in those specific channels.